Hey everyone, Brent Insider here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to a Judas Priest CD collection run through. The band itself formed in 1969 and have released 19 studio albums. The thing is, I've got over 40 CDs in my collection from them. These are studio albums, deluxe editions, box sets, live albums, compilations, some Japanese only released albums, and even some promo albums that are not the things that you can just regularly go out and pick up. So I got a lot of cool things to run through with you guys. Additional albums outside of that are also Rob Halford's put out 10 solo albums. Glenn Tipton has put out 2. Ripper Owens has put out at least 15 that I can think of. I'm not going to get into that because that would just get crazy. We're going to focus on Judas Priest proper, and I'll do that here in just a bit. But if you are new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this, where I'm running through my Judas Priest CD collection. So we're gonna dive in and we're gonna kick off in 1974 with Rockola. Now this is the original mix of the album. We later get in 2024 a remixed version of this, and there's some significant differences to this one here. So I've got to say, I really like this one. This one never quite hit me the way that other future Judas Priest albums would. So a lot of great tracks on this, but it was the remix edition of the album that did it for me. So I do have both versions like that. I've also got these Koch Records reissue version of it, where they changed up the album art like this and did something different. So I'd had this one in my collection, as well as the follow-up album from '76, Sad Wings of Destiny. So both of these having that alternative artwork in that regard on it. This came out, I want to see, in 1978, but since it focuses on these first 2 albums, this Best of Judas Priest, I wanted to group in and show you guys. This came out on RCA Records. A little deceiving in the fact that it's called a Best of Judas Priest when it doesn't actually go and get into the big hits of the band and everything. Now, we're going to move into this box set that the band had put out, which collects together, as you can see there, all the studio albums. And the cool thing is, on the top of it, the spine does the Judas Priest logo. It also spells out Judas Priest at the bottom there. So that's what I'm going to be pulling from right now to show you the rest of the regular albums that came out from the band. So we've got Sin After Sin, 1977, fantastic album. The opening track, Sinner, might be most well known for the song Diamonds and Rust that are on here. Dissident Aggressor, lots of great tracks overall. Next one in here we have is Stained Glass. A lot of people think that this one here is the be-all, end-all. Remember, this was the one that the lawsuit happened from, Better By You, Better Than Me. But it opens with Exciter on it. I like the song Invader personally. Beyond the Realms of Death. Lots of good things on Stained Glass. This one here, Killing Machine, and I love the album artwork of this one here. Some of the ones that you're going to see within this, let's see, it has the reflective silver on the logo and on the back side. I think these were the UK edition, and you get that alternate album artwork that was different than the US edition. And whenever I was able to come across these, and I was finding these just used in record stores, I built up my box, because the box, I think, came with the first 4. I can't quite remember the exact way that this worked, but adding this one in, lots of good stuff there. We then get into Unleashed in the East, arguably their best live album, one of the things that really broke the band. British Steel, which is probably their biggest breakthrough album, having the songs like Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, Breaking the Law, Grinder, United, Living After Midnight. The list just goes on with this. Okay, then we've got Point of Entry, again, another one that's got different artwork, whether in the UK or here. This one, I believe, was the US edition, if I remember correctly on it. Heading Out to the Highway, Don't Go, Hot Rockin', Desert Plains is one that I really like off of here. All of these have 2 bonus tracks on them as well. And they usually had a unreleased studio song. This one had Thunder Road, and then one of the songs done live, Desert Plains. So you got studio bonus track every time you got one that was for the box at the time when it was coming out. And as they were releasing these, you could just buy them and stick them in the box. So Screaming for Vengeance, opening with the Hellion, Electric Eye, Bloodstone on here, Screaming for Vengeance, the title track, You Got Another Thing Coming. We then go into Defenders of the Faith. This is a personal favorite of mine. Free Will Burning's got to be one of the heaviest tracks or the fastest tracks. Jawbreaker, Rock Hard, Ride Free, The Sentinel, Love Bites, Eat Me Alive, Some Heads Are Gonna Roll. A lot of these songs were performed on their live album that's going to come up in just a minute, but we have Turbo, which is sort of that album that is the outlier to the group. They made a real commercial sounding album. The song Turbo Lover being a popular one, Locked In, Private Property, Parental Guidance, all very good songs, but ones that haven't stood the test of time the way that the title track did. Then we get that live album that I was talking about, and this having songs from Turbo, but also from the previous album. So I really enjoyed this. This was a VHS that I had long before I had the CD. Ram It Down is one that I like, but never fully been able to get into. It didn't quite meet the sort of, I don't know, cool factor that I would have liked that later happens on the next album. But over the years, I've grown to really enjoy this one. I still can't stand their cover of Johnny Be Good, which was from the movie of the same name. But Painkiller, which I think is probably their greatest album. I do like British Steel and some of the other ones, but I don't know. This was my first official Judas Priest album that I got that came out when I was a fan. So I think I will always love this album, but title track Painkiller, one of the heaviest songs they ever did, Touch of Evil, Nightcrawler, but it's all the deep cuts that are on this. This is one of those albums, strangely enough, if I put this on, I can fall right to sleep to it. It's got this comforting vibe to it that I just really enjoy. So that's all the albums that were included from Sin After Sin to Painkiller in that box. So I do have those. Like I said, those are remastered with the bonus tracks, all that great stuff. And then let me flip this pile upside down so at least I can get to this roughly in the right order. We're going to jump back a little bit because I have some deluxe editions of those albums that I just covered there, like the British Steel deluxe edition, and this one here being a 2 CD, 1 DVD, but you get the original album remastered, you get a live show that took place, and then you get the DVD edition of it. Mine's coming apart a little bit at the top. I'm gonna have to break out some glue, I think, and do it. But this was a fun thing. They started doing some 30th anniversary editions. Another one was the deluxe edition for Screaming for Vengeance. Similar fashion to that, we get the album itself with a bunch of bonus tracks, and then we get a DVD included in this one of a live show. And they add a bunch of live tracks. Plus they are adding that studio song, the live song that was from the remaster, and then they add more bonus content to each one of these. It's a little bit of repeat, but also a little bit of bonus stuff. And then with the album Turbo, 30th anniversary edition of this, same thing. We're also getting a live CD, or actually it's a 2 live CDs. So this is a 3 CD set, but it's a live show. And it seems like Judas Priest doesn't have a lot of studio stuff in the vault or demo versions of things in the vault, because we've just never seen that. When they're doing these deluxe editions and other box sets, tons of live material, but very little in the way of studio things. All right, so now picking back up into years, following on from this box, meaning we're following on from Painkiller. There was like a 6-year absence for them as Rob Halford had left. In that interim, we got this Best of Living After Midnight. And this one here being I should say, I think it's, like I said, the British one, when it had the metallic stuff to it. Track listing and everything is a little bit different on this one than it is on the American edition of things. But we finally have Ripper Owens coming in for Jugulator in 1997. This album here, while I enjoyed it at the time, I always felt that this album was a bit of just a Painkiller clone. And as much as I love Painkiller, Painkiller had the cool factor. I felt like this was a lot like Ram It Down, a bit cheesy in its overall lyrical content. Didn't hold up, at least in 97, the way Painkiller did in 1990. But they put out a live album from that time period called 98 Live Meltdown, 2 CD album. The live show from this DVD, fantastic. I loved how they put out live shows with Ripper so you could experience them both ways. Song selection was absolutely great. Now, at the same time, we get a Japanese release called Priest Live and Rare, and it's a lot of live, rare recordings and stuff. Only came out in Japan. With Rob Halford. It didn't have anything present day on it, but that was a cool thing to come out. Don't know why this came out at that time, in between, I think it was 98, in between or 97, 98, in between the time of the Ripper Owens era. So staying with Ripper, we get Demolition, and personally, I think this is one of their best albums. I recently did a top 5 ranking, for which I put this in at number 5 because I think it's that good. I think the songwriting on here, the singing, everything was on the mark. It also wasn't a clone of all the other albums, so I really, really enjoyed it. This is a Japanese edition, which has Rapid Fire re-recorded and the Green Metalology re-recorded, but with Ripper singing. So that was a very cool thing. And I don't know where it is. It must be in the booklet or something, but it came with a guitar pick at the time. So that was also a lot of fun to get. And then they would do one more live album called Live in London. This is probably the best live show that has a Ripper singing for it. It just is absolutely fantastic. One of the best live concerts, even over some of the Rob Halford ones. I thought this one here was just absolutely on fire. And I got a limited edition collector's sampler. So this is a promo album here done to promote this box set. And so that box set came out in between the Ripper Owens and Rob Halford returning to the band, and this a selections of the tracks from here. And so this is a lot of fun because it doesn't just go down the straight greatest hits style stuff. We get some different versions, some live that are on here, some CD extra versions that didn't make the regular greatest hits. So this all in all was a cool collection, and I always enjoy having different versions of compilations. So the next thing, before we get the first new Rob Halford album, we get Judas Priest Metalology, a 4 CD box set that came with studs just like Judas Priest. I mean, this box set could not be more Judas Priest if you wanted it. I believe this is 4 CDs plus a DVD that's in here. That DVD, I want to say, is of a 1982 show, and finally gets a standalone release. But this was the inside card on here, and it covers their entire career. And what I thought was cool is they even focus on the Ripper Owens era. So at least up until this point, they are still promoting the Ripper Owens era of stuff. And then unfortunately, once Rob is back, they just wipe it out. Whereas like Iron Maiden and Bruce Dickinson continue to perform songs that were part of the Blaze Bayley era, I wish Judas Priest would do the same. Now, like this sampler promotional CD that came out, there was also this one for the box set, Metalology, and it has a number of selections, and it's got some of those rare tracks. So it's fun to listen to this, which is like a greatest hits, but it's got these rare versions of the tracks plus some unreleased songs that were only part of the box set. So again, if you don't want to listen to all 4 CDs, you've got a sampler to do. And finally, we get the first album, which was Angel of Retribution, with Rob Halford returning. This one here came with a bonus DVD of a live show where Rob Halford had been reunited with the band. So great to get not only the new studio album, but to also see Rob Halford making a triumphant return. But I gotta say, I think out of all the live albums the band has done, A Touch of Evil, this live album has got the most energy and over-the-top performances, even though it was modern day stuff. It opens with Judas Rising, goes into Hell Rider, and then deep cut off a Painkiller, Between the Hammer and the Anvil, Riding on the Wind, then Death. So all the songs, the point is, I'm not going to read them all out. They're lesser known songs. They're not the big hits. It ends with Painkiller, which is probably the biggest song single that was off of this thing, and it really focuses on that later era stuff. And I like that bands do that occasionally so that I can pull this out and I don't have to hear the sort of tired hit after hit the way that I know the stuff inside and out. I know for some people, the average fan, they're going to want those hits, but that's a nice alternative to it. And then the band decides to go and make what they think will be their last album, Nostradamus, a double album, the first of its kind for them, a concept album, another first of its kind. But on this tour, they decide, hey, I don't know if we actually want to retire, right? So they were doing their Epitaph tour. They were going out. That was the same time that KK Downing decides to leave the group. They bring in Richie Faulkner at that point. And I'm just really glad that they chose not to wrap it up. But during that time frame, while they were thinking that they may want to be wrapping it up, we get 2 more compilations from them. We get the single cuts, so all of the singles that were released. And there's a number of tracks on here that are no longer in their set list, that are no longer really heard on radio. Better By You, Better Than Me, Before the Dawn, Take on the World, Evening Star. Those were singles that don't get played anymore, but those are on here. The songs like United, Don't Go, Hot Rockin'. Basically, if you have their live VHS, Metalworks, or one of the DVDs that shows you all their music videos, that's what this is. And so again, a different type of compilation than those other ones. So these compilations aren't just simply repeating each other, which is why I've chosen to have them in the collection. And some of these I've picked up as used copies so that I don't have to shell out a lot, but I get to have them in my collection. The next one is The Chosen Few. And this was selected by fans of the band. And so again, while we do pretty much cover the hits, it's not the straight stuff. We open with Diamonds and Rust, go into Dissident Aggressor, Exciter, Beyond the Realms of Death, Delivering the Goods. That wouldn't normally make a hit. It's the Green Menalishi. We get some live tracks on it. But this being on Sony Legacy, it wraps up a Painkiller. And they really need a compilation that spans their whole career outside of some of the labels. They're back on Epic and Sony, so they now could do that. I think we'll see that at some point. They then put out Redeemer of Souls, and we got a 2 CD edition of this. I also like the artwork on here, the shimmery glossiness of this, with a bonus disc of 5 additional studio recordings. So there's that, but I'm one of the purists. I like it when it's just in the jewel case and we don't have that extra stuff. I have access to it if I want it, so I had to get me a jewel case. See, you can see it's a promo, so I bought it when I found it inexpensive so that I can have it in the collection. But on that note, I also picked up this standalone release of those 5 songs called 5 Souls. It was a record store day release, so I do have that. I never opened it because I didn't need to listen to this, but I just wanted it in the collection, and I managed to get a hold of that too. After it had come out, I didn't have to pay the full price for it. I had some credit with Anthony Coviello over at Sound Exchange, and he hooked me up on it. I have another live album, Battle Cry. And this one here, again, focuses on the more current material. We do get the hits back in here, and it's the last live album that they've done to date so far, but this one just did not hold up the way that A Touch of Evil did. I was a little disappointed. It came out, one album cycle later, but this one here just not as good in my opinion. 15 tracks though, still great to have. And then we get one of their best albums, Firepower. A lot of people even rank this really high in their list. A fantastic album, but this one was also a bit more straightforward. It didn't verge off too far from the Judas Priest formula. So this one here, second, in fact, the Redeemer of Souls being the first one with Richie Faulkner, this being the second one. And then in between, before we get to the latest album from them, 50 Heavy Metal Years of Judas Priest, a monumental box set that did all of the albums and a whole bunch of live shows and everything. They put out a sampler from it. Most of this is live stuff, but a lot of it is the rare stuff, and it was very cool to get because I didn't want to shell out. As you see, I have all of this stuff, but I get to have this one single CD to put in my collection and have that. And then on that note, as part of Record Store Day, we got the first of the live albums that was part of that box set, standalone edition. I hope that they begin releasing the remainder. I want to say there was like 7 or 8 live shows in there. This is from 1982, live in Atlanta. So I picked that up. And then their latest album, which is Invincible Shield. This one here being the bonus track edition, 3 additional songs on this one. So here we are, up to date on that. Now, even though this isn't Judas Priest proper, I still consider it a version of Judas Priest, and that is KK Downing's Judas Priest, because we have KK Downing on guitar, we have Ripper Owens on vocals, and we even had the drummer Les Binks in the band early on. He didn't record this album here, but early on we had 3 former members of Judas Priest in this lineup. So I still considered it a version of Judas Priest, and I always liked the Ripper Owens era. So for me, I'm still going to group this in. This one here, Sermons of the Sinner, and followed up a couple years later with The Sinner Rides Again. So 2 KK's Priest versions of the band, and I hope they continue on and doing it. I don't really know what kind of success they're having with that, but that's great. Go see the Rob Halford version, and that one, we don't have Glenn Tipton playing live on stage anymore, and he's not even always playing on the albums. A lot of times he shows Richie Faulkner what he wants to play, and Richie plays it. So the reality is, the current version of Judas Priest only has 2 original members left in Rob Halford and Ian Holmes. I'm spacing on his last name, but the bass player, right? So we have 2 original members, well, not original, we have 2 members of Judas Priest over here. We've got KK Downing, an original guitar player who used to co-write everything with Glenn Tipton, so he's lending that sound over here. But then we've got the fantastic Ripper Owens. I'm good with it. I know not everybody is, But in the end of the day, that is my 40 CD plus version of my collection. There's even a few things in there I realized while I was talking to you that I didn't go and grab the Metalworks 2 CD collection that I have. I've got that. So I think that is the only one that I missed in my collection. That's in a box somewhere, I guess, because it's autographed. I don't keep it out with everything else. So I don't know. Out of all of that, I would just guess, I would ask, what is your favorite Judas Priest album? Weigh in and let me know. Or what is your favorite era of the band? Weigh in and let me know. But I hope you enjoyed this run through of my CD collection of Judas Priest. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon.